Again, we are waiting for head coach DeMeco Ryans after this 34-7 loss. Texans, of course, now 2-1. CJ Stroud, 20 of 31, 215 yards, 1 touchdown pass, 2 INTs. Sam Darnold, first 4-touchdown toss game since 2019 for him. When you did a tail of the tape coming into this game, you thought, okay, CJ Stroud, clear advantage for the Houston Texans. And I think long haul, long term, yes, it is an advantage for the Texans with CJ. But in this game, 17 of 28, 181 and 4 touches, but most importantly, no INTs, and actually a couple of times threw the ball away in situations that they made sure it wasn't going to get worse for Minnesota.
Yeah, he made smart decisions, and of the 4 systems that he's played in his career, this one seems to suit him the best. I mean, it could be maturity, it could be a number of things, but
talent around him.
Talent around him, that always helps. I will say this, the Vikings were 19-0 coming into this game in the Kevin O'Connell era when they tied or won the turnover battle.
Wow.
That goes to 20-0 today.
What do you think will be DeMeco's response about the penalties and some of these, to borrow a tennis term, unforced errors?
I think he's going to be most upset about the tone that was set early in the game and them allowing that to clearly affect their play. Not being able to separate those things and then allowing things to snowball. I think that was really the problem, is the compounding of errors. It's not having one here, having one there. I mean, they had that one series, I think it was the 4th or 5th series of the game, they had 4 penalties in a row on the offensive line. That's unacceptable.
And momentum is often this overused term in sports.
It's everything.
But I think it does apply to a drive, and when you can start moving the chains, moving the sticks, and obviously building something, momentum in a drive, and when you have all those penalties, it just kills it. And obviously, you're going backwards too, which doesn't help matters at all either.
Right, and negating, gains.
Yeah.
I mean, they had that 3rd down, that great play that CJ and Tank made, and then it gets called back because of an illegal formation by Laramie Tunsil. I mean, it's stuff like that over the course of a game, this game was over after the first 2 quarters, but over the course of the first 2 quarters, those things add up and you just get no momentum.
The reason I'm looking down is I'm looking here at the team statistics. The Texans, 11 penalties for 88 yards. I believe they had 12 in the last game against the Bears.
They had 12 in the last game. That's right.
You cannot have double-digit penalties in this league and
it's hard enough to
win.
Beat your opponent.
Yeah.
Better yet, beat yourself at the same time.
Minnesota had 5 for 30. Texans won time of possession. They had held on to the football about a minute and a half longer. And then, again, the turnover battle, 2 and 0 for Minnesota. So that also with 2 interceptions. And Minnesota, if this NFC title or NFC playoff run goes through Minnesota, watch out to the rest of the NFC because that place is something else.
It's loud. Clearly it had an effect on the game today. The crowd, clearly a factor. I mean, you saw CJ a number of times. It just seemed like the line could not hear him at all.
Yeah.
Even, clapping near the end of the play clock, trying to get the play off. But, it clearly had an effect.
We are also going to be doing our one word to describe this game, so get those one words ready. Checking here on Facebook. The feed up on Facebook yet? I'm not seeing it. It is? Okay. All right. Feed's up on Facebook. And we'll be doing that momentarily as we typically do between CJ Stroud and DeMeco Ryans. Okay, you've got it there.
Yep, we've got it up here.
Okay. And again, we're waiting for DeMeco Ryans. Another thing we touched on briefly was the running game.
Ugh.
That first game with Joe Mixon, yes. And now that you don't have Joe Mixon, it was non-existent. You're talking 2.7 yards per carry. Is that what they ended up with in this game? Let's see. 2.7. Meantime, the Vikings, 4.2.
Yeah.
That is going to be a major issue if the Texans can't correct that, especially when they're thinking about one thing, and that is being a Super Bowl contender. You have to run the football, and they have not been able to do that. Both teams had 11 drives. Yards per play, about the same, passing yards, but again, those penalties and a lot of other stuff just detonated within this offensive game plan for the Texans.
Everybody was so worried about Justin Jefferson coming into this game. If you would have told me the Texans were going to hold him to under 100 yards, 81 yards, you would have said that was probably an effective day. You know he's going to make plays, but ultimately it was the running game that killed the Texans.
Among other things.
Yeah,
yes.
But if you had to pick one facet of that offense that did the most damage to them and just wore them down, I think it was the running game. The Vikings, exerted their will on the Texans' defensive line, and then the Texans' offensive line was overmatched. Jonathan Grenard, give him credit, came in like a man on a mission.
Yeah.
He was disruptive. He played very well against his former team. I would imagine he's pretty happy with that performance.
I would say a hat trick and sacks.
Yeah.
What are you seeing from comments? I'm having a hard time pulling them up here. So
All right, so we've got 2 words so far.
All right, you want to write them?
Yeah, I'm going to write them down.
Again, we're waiting for DeMeco Ryans to approach the podium here and discuss this 34-7 loss to the Minnesota Vikings in Minneapolis, the Twin Cities, where it is extremely difficult to play, and the Texans found that out, and they found it out quickly in that first quarter, being down 14-0. They were even second and third quarters, and then fourth quarter, 13 points for the Minnesota Vikings in that fourth and final quarter. So,
all right, so we've got Sammy, who says, "Score!" exclamation point. Like they needed to score. That's what I'm assuming. And Sammy, let me know if that's how you meant it. And then we've got Kathy, who says penalties. Yes. Score and penalties. 2 very important aspects of this game that both went wrong for the Texans. The penalties went up and the score stayed down. So
you could argue that not just Jonathan Grenard, but there were a number of former Texans in this game.
There were.
Who showed out against Houston. Kamu Hill.
Yeah.
There's another one who played extremely well. He is filling in for an injured guy in Minnesota, so he's technically or typically not the starter, but he played very well. You also had Blake Cashman.
Counted for 4 tackles.
Okay.
He had 2 solo tackles. I was just looking down to look that up right here.
And these guys, they love playing against their former team. I mean, they love it. They love it. They got their money, and now they got bragging rights as well.
Absolutely. And it might not be anything vengeful, but there's no question that you playing well against the team you used to play for, it's going to mean more. I don't care what they say. It means more.
And in some cases where you felt you were worth X dollars and X years, and that team said, that doesn't work for us.
That's right.
We think you're going to have to go elsewhere. And that's listen, Jonathan Grenard did not skirt that question leading up.
No.
He said, this is big. I'm not going to sit here and not tell you that it's not important, because it was important to him to play well. And there were times where Cade Stover, the rookie, was trying to block him, and that did not go well. It did not go well.
All day, blocking was a major issue for the Texans. I think they missed the presence of Brevin Jordan, because he typically is a guy who ends up picking up blocks. I mean, I don't know how much of a difference it would have made in the end, but there were a number of instances where Cade Stover was overmatched, although I don't think that Cade Stover and Jonathan Grenard should be up against each other.
All right, here's DeMeco Ryans at the podium. Let's listen in.
Credit to the Vikings, man. They played a really great game today. They they beat us up and down the field physically. They were a really good team, and they made a lot of plays today. So credit to those guys, really well-coached team, respect those guys, and they did a great job today. For us, we didn't do anything to help ourselves. Way too many penalties again. That starts with me. It's too many penalties, back-to-back game, over 10 penalties. It's unacceptable. You can't win that way when we have something positive going. We negate it by the penalty. So that just zaps the energy out of everyone. And so then turning the ball over, there's a lot of miscues today, and you can't do that and expect to win in this league. So we have to, we take the loss and we got to move on. Yeah, I thought we had some really good looks. We had some good protection early, and it's just down the road. Brian did a really good job. I think those guys, they got after us pretty good up front, and if we want to be a good football team, you have to win in the trenches. It all starts there. So O-line and D-line, for me, did not play well enough today to help us win the game.
How would you assess how the pass coverage kind of did against San Francisco today?
Yeah, with the coverage, we have to make plays. We're in position. We have to make plays. At the end of the day, that's what it comes down to. In the red zone there, we got them. Third down, a couple times there in the red zone, and we did not make the play. So that will never change in this league. Like, playmakers have to step up and make plays. Yeah, it was just a lot of negative plays. I don't think we couldn't get the run game going like we wanted to. So a lot of negative plays there. And you have that many negative plays, it's hard to do anything positive when you continue to hurt yourself. So we have to go back to the drawing board, figure it out, and not let one become two.
Obviously, not to make penalties. They know that. And as you just said, when you go back to the drawing board, what do you do to fix the pre-snap penalties in particular?
Yeah, the pre-snap penalties, it all is self-inflicted, so we have to take ownership of it, right? First and foremost, we have to take ownership of it, and we all have to man up and be man enough to just do what we're supposed to do and be where we're supposed to be and play smart, clean football. Yeah, third down, we would definitely love to be better on third down. They won the battle on third down on both sides today, and that's the difference in the game, right? They were able to get off the field when they needed to, and we did not get off the field as many times as we needed to in the red zone and forced them to kick some field goals to keep the game closer.
Not to take a few more. Not to harp too much on the penalties, but playing in a crowd like that, a hostile environment, how much does that affect kind of the penalty situation?
Yeah, it was a great crowd. Minnesota has a great crowd. Everyone knows it. One of the loudest places in the league to play, and so you know that going in. So that's not an excuse. You have to lock in and be on the details of your job. Yeah, we'll see how Tank goes throughout the week, but he should be fine. Yeah, you can't harp on it. You can't harp on it, man. We'll watch it tomorrow. You learn from the mistakes. It's all about what do you learn, from this loss. What do you learn? And if you learn and you make the proper corrections for the next week, we should play better next week.
It seemed like another game where CJ was sacked more often than you guys won. What do you think is the reason why this continues to be an issue?
Yeah, one of our number one keys to success was protecting our quarterback, and we didn't do that, and we didn't win the game. So, don't want to see a quarterback hit as much as he was hit today. So we have to get it fixed.
So I think last two right here. What's the biggest thing you feel like you wanted the team to learn after this?
The main thing is everybody just has to be, accountable for their role, their job, right? It takes everybody. It's not just about one person. It takes everybody working together. And again, we'll go back and look at the mistakes that were made, on the film and see, how the Texans can help the Texans. Right now, today the Texans helped the Vikings a lot, and the Vikings played really good. So that's indicative of the final score.
It was a heavy dose of Justin Jefferson in the first half. I think you guys were able to kind of shut him down a little bit more, but then they started to go to their complementary guys. What was kind of the checks and balances of shutting down their number one, but then their other guys starting to make some plays?
Yeah, it goes back to you know, you have to make plays in this league. No matter who you lined up against, you have to make plays. Justin's a really great player. He made some big-time catches on us there. On third down, he made some catches to keep drives going, and, you know, that's what he's done every week. So credit to him, man, big-time player, made some plays, and I think we adjusted well in the second half, but, again, you still got to cover everybody. So we still, you know, have some work to do there. All right, thank you, guys.
Was DeMeco Ryans at the podium following this 34-7 loss. Jason Bristol and Zach Tawatari here breaking down this game. Your big takeaway from what DeMeco had to say just moments ago.
Negative plays. That's what DeMeco said. Negative plays. Kept harping on that because that's the truth. They shot themselves in the foot a number of times. So
I thought it was interesting. He said Texans need to help Texans. Today the Texans help the Vikings, and he was exactly right. Here's some comments. Robert, thanks for weighing in. Penalties absolutely kill us. It didn't help that we couldn't get our run game going either. Furthermore, the offensive line was like Swiss cheese. So was our defense, actually, he says in parentheses. We're better than this, though, and we'll clean it up for next week. And I think that's also important point because DeMeco, what does every coach in the NFL say? They say it's a week-to-week league, and he said one can't turn into two,
That's
and
right.
that is so important in this league. You cannot have 2 and 3 and 4 game losing streaks. You want to make these games aberrations, a 1 game losing streak in this league. Richard says too many penalties. Eddie says Mills had a better tempo. I would argue that the time of the game when he came in, that's why he had a better tempo because they were down by 27 points, I think, when he came in, or at least 20. Let's see. Eddie says Super Bowl teams dominate opponents, and when they happen to fall short, it's still a competitive game. Texans not ready.
might be right.
Might be right.
Yeah.
Might be right. The good thing is this is only week 3.
Right.
You got a lot of season left.
It's a young team still.
For the most part. Steve says horrible performance by the offense. John Paul says it was both sides that play bad. Continuing with our one-word theme as we wait for CJ Stroud to take the podium, Robert has this one, porous.
A lot of holes.
A lot of holes, much like the Swiss cheese analogy. I'm gonna go. Did you give your one word yet?
No,
okay.
I did not.
I'm gonna go with this one. Zach's cheating. Looking at my board. What? You can't come up with your own word? You got to look at my paper?
I wanted to make sure we weren't going to say the same thing.
Well, sometimes that's good television if we have the
okay.
same thing.
Fair.
All right, my word is this. Unexpected. This
Okay.
was unexpected. Based on what we know about this team, what we've seen from this team, and what we think of this team, this was unexpected. You're gonna have some of these in a season. But again, the key is you can't have 2 or 3 in a row. So I posted on X that this may end up being the worst first quarter the Texans have all season. We'll see. There's still a long, long season left to play, but it would not surprise me if this is the worst first quarter you'll see the Texans play all season.
It would be hard for them to get off to a worse start than they did today.
Yeah, especially in that environment.
Right.
You couldn't do that in that environment.
And given that,
Okay.
my one word, flat.
That's pretty
They
good
came
too.
out flat today. The Vikings punched them in the mouth, and they never recovered. And I don't know that DeMeco Ryans is going to be so upset with the loss today as he is going to be with the lack of response. They came out today. I'm not saying they gave up.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that they were not able to respond effectively because they kept having these negative plays that stopped their progress.
We have someone here saying, touch on Tunsil. Well, there were a lot of yellow flags. That's the one thing. But listen, last Sunday during the Sunday Night Football game, there was a graphic that popped up that said he had been flagged for more false starts than any lineman in football the past 2 years. And
It's unacceptable.
it is unacceptable, not just from any left tackle, but the highest paid or one of the highest paid
Pro Bowl.
left tackles in pro football. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but Trent Williams is certainly on the same plane as Laramie Tunsil. And I'm
Yes.
guaranteeing you that Trent Williams doesn't have that number of false start penalties. Now, Laramie a couple of years ago came out and said that he thought the officials were targeting him. It's one thing when you're moving and the ball's not. So
Right. I mean, I understand that the illegal formation is subject to interpretation in the sense that the official sees how far you are lined up behind the guy to the right of you, or at a deficit from the guy to the right of you. But if you're moving and the ball isn't, that's pretty objective. And ultimately, there's no way you can have that many penalties and there not be some kind of issue that you have.
And
right?
I was listening. I was just trying to
Yeah.
figure out this
No,
number to see what I could pull up on Trent Williams. Now, granted, as I'm looking here, 2 Trent Williams penalties lead to a 49ers punt back in February. And if you're playing back in February, well, you know what that means.
Yeah.
That's deep into the playoffs. But Laramie Tunsil is certainly one of the best at what he does, but this has to be cleaned up. It has to be cleaned up.
Has to be. And it's a difficult position, I would imagine, if you're DeMeco Ryans or you're Bobby Slowick, because this is a veteran guy. This is a captain on your team, and they're going to have to say something to him about this adding up, because he had 2 false starts in the second game. He had 2 false starts in the first game. He has
3 in this one.
3 in this one, plus another 2 illegal formation penalties.
For some guys, that's a season's worth of flags.
Yeah. Yep.
All right, we are still continuing to wait for CJ Stroud. Certainly, he will be asked about the protection and the guys up front, I imagine. Give us your one word to describe this game. We're sitting here. You can do that on our KHO11 News Facebook page. That's what we're currently looking at. Eddie says, what went wrong? Penalties, offensive line couldn't protect. Run game was non-existent. Secondary got torched, outplayed, outcoached today. If the O-line can't protect the quarterback, there is no way we can have an extraordinary game. Tunsil had 5 in this game. Yep.
And even even if you take away the penalties, CJ had very little time today in the pocket. He was constantly having to step up. And the Minnesota secondary, give them credit, did a good job of keeping those wide receivers in front of them. So he didn't have those same off-book options that he might have in another week.
Pat has weighed in with a word. Disgusting. Hey, you're going to have some of those over the course of a 17-game season.
Yeah.
The key is you don't want those in the postseason. And you know what? Big picture, this may end up being one of the best things to happen to the Texans. Who knows? We'll see. But certainly a response, that's going to be so important for this team, not just because it's a week-to-week league, but next week you have your AFC South division opponents / rivals coming into NRG. So you could potentially go up 2-0 in this division, and that would be huge. That would be huge.
It would be
huge.
And then you've got the Bills. That's going to be another tough game. So maybe this lights a fire under them after winning those first 2 games and probably feeling, like they were on top of the world. I mean,
I think it's Tijon. I think that's how it's pronounced. He has another word. Basura, trash.
thank you for interpreting.
It's not. Well, I mean, he put
He
a little.
did put
he
the
put
trash
emoji.
can
He put
emoji
the
for
trash
us.
can
Thank
emoji.
you.
And I didn't want to
That's true.
I didn't want to take up our time drawing. So.
Right. Okay.
But again, we're waiting for CJ Stroud here as the Texans fall 34-7. Around the league, You think you got it bad? How about what's going on in Cleveland right now?
Yeah, that's
Deshaun
not
Watson. They lose 21-15 to the Giants. The previously winless Giants, Deshaun Watson, 21 of 37, 196, had 2 touchdowns. One of those scores came late in the fourth. But Daniel Jones was 24 of 34 for 236, 2 scores, and no picks. So Eddie says CJ headed for the sophomore slump. Love the kid, maybe too early, but it happens. I don't think so. You look at some of those throws in that game. There was a pass to Nico that.
What about that? His catch on that? Throw?
Yeah, that was a great. Yeah,
he caught
but
it.
You can't catch
overhand.
it. But you can't catch it without a great throw,
That's
right?
true.
It's
That's
like
true.
the chicken and the egg and that
Right.
kind of thing. So,
Fair.
to me, he has really showed no signs yet of a sophomore slump. I think it's been some issues around him. Listen, CJ is, I would imagine, a perfectionist, but also understands like, hey, you're going to win some plays, you're going to lose some plays. It's how you respond. But yeah, I haven't seen any sophomore slump. The throws, NFL media posted a video of Bill Belichick after week 1 on that last 4th down throw, or that late game throw rather, to Nico Collins, and Bill
On the
Belichick
sideline.
said that might be the throw of the year, and that was week 1, and then he did it something similar in week 2, and then he had another throw here in week 3. So I don't see that. I think there's a lot of issues, namely the running game at this point, running game and penalties.
Yeah.
So I don't see a sophomore slump. I'd have to see like a 4 interception game or him being wildly inaccurate. I'm not seeing that from CJ Stroud.
Yeah. The second interception today was his fault. He knew it. He admitted it. Immediately said to Nico Collins, "That's my bad." You don't see that happen very often.
All right. So Tion, my apologies. I have this little screen here, so I apologize. I got your name wrong. She says Basur. So my apologies. I have this little screen here, so and my eyes are going at this advanced age. So Jay says, "Nick, you're fired." That's quite a response after the first loss of 2024. Nick, you're fired?
I don't think I can fire Nick Caserio.
No, I don't think so.
He's done pretty good so far.
All right. Also around the league, when you look at some of these games that impact the division, Jacksonville has Buffalo. That's on Monday. And then you also have the Colts. They were playing the Bears today. And I'm looking for my scores here.
Caleb Williams not great in that game.
Did you have the final there?
Again, yeah, Colts Bears 21-16 Indianapolis.
Okay. Andy Dalton from Katy. He's 7 of 10 for 79 yards and a touchdown in his first start. That game is currently in progress. But again, we're waiting for CJ Stroud here. I don't think we'll hear from any other players at the podium.
doubt it.
Typically after a loss, we don't get that.
Fewer.
I'm sorry?
There were fewer.
Yeah, there are. Back in the day, we would typically hear from J.J. Watt as well at the podium. Certainly, it was J.J., Deshaun, and then Coach. But now it's pretty much a CJ thing only.
Eddie makes a good point here. He says we could easily be 0-3 right now.
Yeah.
Let's hope they get it turned around.
Yeah.
You're right. You're right. A couple possessions go one way or the other in those first 2 games. They could be 0-3. You're right.
No, without a doubt. And for as much talk there is about this being a Super Bowl team, you could argue your closest contender is the Indianapolis Colts. And in the last 2 games, I think they've been decided by 5 or 6 points.
Sounds right. Yeah.
When you include the last game of last year in the regular season they played, and then the first game in the regular season of 2024. So,
I think an important thing, too, when we think about the big picture of this league, right, is people want to talk about who's a Super Bowl contender, who isn't a Super Bowl contender. Well, right now in the league, at least in my opinion, there's the Kansas City Chiefs and then there's everyone else.
Yeah.
You watch a Chiefs game, it's a different pace. It looks like they're out there playing chess. And there are times when the Texans offense or the Texans defense looks like that. Specifically, I'm talking about offense, the way that they operate and the way that they execute, but it's not there yet for a full game. And we've barely, I think, seen them scratch the surface of what their potential of consistency can be. We haven't even seen the offensive line play well one time this year. They didn't play well in the first 2 games. They played okay. CJ did enough getting out of the pocket to make big plays, but you can't rely on that. And that got exposed today.
I wonder how much this also, you can point to the limited number of reps that players play in the preseason now. Because,
Big time.
yes, you had 4 preseason games, but the number of snaps by your starters in most cases was under 15.
Right.
And the first 2 games, you could easily, even the first 3 games, these guys, and the Texans have even said it by saying reps are important. DeMeco has even said that. Reps are important. And who knows, maybe in week 4 we'll start to see that graph that goes, whew. Maybe we'll see a much better, a much more crisp team, both offensively, defensively, and on special teams.
Yeah, a cohesion.
Yeah.
They just don't have that quite yet.
Again, we're waiting for CJ Stroud here as the Texans fall to the Minnesota Vikings 34-7. I just pulled up, you mentioned Kansas City.
Yeah.
I pulled up Kansas City's schedule from last year. Where I'm going with this, and I'm not going to bury the lead, the lead is this. Even Super Bowl winners have stinkers during the regular season.
That's right.
You cannot play perfect football week in and week out. Looking at Kansas City last year, week 8, they lost at Denver 24-9.
And
Now, granted, they had 483 yards of total offense, but they lost 24-9.
Well, I remember right here, week 13 and 14.
They lost
when they lost back-to-back games. And
those were good opponents, though.
they were, but I'm just saying everybody was freaking out at that point.
They lost to the
Lost
Packers.
the aura.
Yeah, they lost at Green Bay, and then they lost home to Buffalo. The Packers game was 27-19, and then the Bills game was just by 3 points. And of course, many people thought, okay, Bills and Chiefs, that's going to be this AFC rivalry for the next how many years? I don't know if that's going to play out much longer, given the losses that Buffalo had, and then certainly Cincinnati always plays Kansas City tough, and then you have this upstart Houston Texans team.
That's right.
Eddie says, at the very least, clean up the penalties. These guys are supposed to be professional football players. That is true, but because they are professional football players, this is the 1%. And when you're the 1%, sometimes a little bit of a grab.
That's right.
Or and if it doesn't, that sometimes separates plays, whether it's a positive gain or a negative gain, and whether it gets called or not, because most of these guys these guys are the 1%. Any little edge they can get, they're going to look for. And I imagine certainly with Laramie, getting out of his stance as quickly as possible to get ready, that's an edge that he probably feels he needs. I'm guessing. I would think any offensive lineman.
Of course, you're always going to try to get off to the best start.
Yeah.
Whether you're on that side of the ball or the other side of the ball.
Yeah. Michael says clean up the penalties. Thank you, Michael, for watching.
I will say this. It's hard to understand how loud it is on TV until you're actually on that field. It is very loud. I'm not saying that is an excuse or why, they had so many false starts, but I do think that was a contributing factor, and maybe they didn't take that into account enough.
I don't think so. And you know why? Where was last Sunday's game, Zach?
That's true.
It was at NRG.
That's true.
And how many false start penalties did Laramie Tunsil have in that one? 2.
That's true. That's true. But, I mean, for them to have...
They came in knowing what the crowd was going to be like. Now, knowing what it's like and actually being
it,
there, yes,
yeah.
can be 2 different things.
I don't think you can simulate that in practice. Like, even when they bring out, you've heard it, the speakers with the fake crowd noise and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Robert says Laramie can find a way to get out of his stance that doesn't draw penalties. No, you're right. You're right.
Right. He has to.
You're right. But again, fractions of a second are so important in this game, but not good. Not good. And I'm going to look this up at some point to see which offensive lineman has had the most false start penalties in a season. I don't know if I can find it. Tonight, KHO U11 Sports Extra at 10:30. Former Texan and original Texan Seth Payne will be with us. Seth, of course, from Sports Radio 610. I imagine he will have a lot to say about this, so definitely tune in because we're going to give Seth the floor.
He's going to be wound up.
Because Seth, having been on the other side of the football, being a defensive tackle, he's going to have a lot to say about what offensive linemen can do, should do, and when they're not doing it correctly. So tune in tonight for KHO 11 Sports Extra. Again, you're watching this post-game edition, again, here of the Texans losing to the Vikings 34-7. Jason Bristol, Zach Tawatari, as we're waiting for CJ Stroud. You saw the game. It wasn't pretty. Certainly CJ had not a lot of time to work with. I'm certain he'll be asked about that. I'm guessing he'll be asked about the atmosphere there. What else? If you were in that room, what would you ask CJ?
Where was the cohesion when it came to the passing game, the running game? Did it feel like you guys just never got anything going? You never established any kind of pattern or momentum to build off of? And was it the penalties that ultimately killed that?
I would have been interested to see a little up-tempo, maybe move things a little bit, but
Sure.
But the problem is you can't go up-tempo
when
you're getting I think you can go up-tempo when you can't hear. I mean, you can do a certain snap count or whatever, but more so like the false starts and the penalties. Like you can't go up-tempo and then we're going back 5 yards, 10 yards, whatever. So let's see. Eddie says, I thought the defensive front for the Vikings had too many tip balls on CJ's passes as well.
I was surprised by that. And I was surprised by that in the first couple games as well. He's had a couple passes tipped at the line. That's not very common for him. And he probably had 2 or 3 today that I can remember. One of them on the interception, and then there was another one where he threw it out to the flat on the right that got tipped. That could have been an interception, but it ended up not being one. I don't know if that's a lane thing or, I don't know.
Well, the one that was tipped, Akers was going out for a screen and didn't chip because he has to go around to get the screen, and then it was basically a jailbreak for that one guy. So he came in and tipped it. A lot to clean up. But again, as we've been mentioning, sometimes that's a good thing. Sometimes you need games like this because you need teaching moments. Scores, Colts over the Bears 21-16. And also, as Robert mentioned, which we failed to mention, the Titans lost 30-14 to the Packers. Rough game for Will Levis. I think he had 2 pick sixes. Yeah, he had 2 INTs in this one. There's some movement now here in this room up in Minneapolis. So I'm guessing CJ is on his way.
I'm sure it's going to be momentarily for him. It's been about enough time. I mean,
it has been enough time.
It takes,
Will Levis was 26 of 34, so on the surface the numbers, but 2 picks. And Malik Willis, 13 of 19, 202, 1 interception. Will Levis sacked 8 times in that game. 8 times the Packers got to Will Levis.
It's not good.
8 times. We thought 7 against Caleb Williams was something. Also in that game, Titans also had no ability to run the football. 33 yards rushing on 3 yards a carry. So that's right now in Houston Texans territory when it comes to rushing the football. But again, 34-7 is the final here. It'll be interesting to see what Laramie Tunsil says in the locker room about what happened today.
They're not going to win games if they cannot figure this out with the running game. And I understand.
Mixon.
Week 1, I get that.
Mixon.
I get that, but at the same time, you have to be able to balance it somewhat. I mean, you look at those plays today, there's really no room. There's nowhere for Cam Akers to go. So whether it's Joe Mixon or Cam Akers or Dare Ogunbowale, I mean, you need holes. You need space to be able to run through. And so that's why for me, it still does start with the offensive line because, like I said, they have not played a good game so far this season.
There was a British Brooks sighting. Good for British Brooks.
Good for him.
He had 1 carry for 2 yards. Also, Cam Akers, 9 rushes, 21 yards, an average of 2.3. On the receiving front, Stephon Diggs, 10 catches, 94 yards in his return to Minneapolis. Yeah, you'll take that week in and week out. Nico Collins, 4 catches, 86 yards, average 21 yards per reception. Tank Dell, 5 for 62. Dare had 2 catches. Robert Woods had 2 catches. Dalton Schultz, a couple of catches. J.J. Taylor, a couple of catches. And then Cam Akers had the 1 pass catch for 8 yards, which was the touchdown. Stephon Diggs was targeted 12 times, caught 10 balls. Nico Collins, 10 times, had 4 receptions. Those numbers, those are normal numbers for me. Those are normal numbers, the number of targets.
Six targets, 5 receptions. I mean, that's how you want to see the ball spread out to those guys. But the numbers aren't so bad on the surface. It's that
timing.
It's timing. I mean, they missed hitting the big play when they really needed it. The only one I can think of that they really needed and they got it was that 3rd down to Nico, that beautiful throw from CJ where, he caught it over his shoulder. That was a big play. But then the other one that he had to tank earlier in the game, negated because of a Laramie Tunsil penalty. And on defense, too. I mean, man, there was a 3rd down and probably 15 later in the game when the score was still, I think, 14-7. It may have been 21-7 at that point. But they gave up all but 15 of those yards on 3rd down. And then the Vikings, when it went forward on 4th and inches, they end up getting the 1st down. It's stuff like that. You can't turn the tide when you don't make the key plays and you're not playing well.
Again, we're waiting for CJ Stroud here from Minneapolis. Texans losing 34-7 on the defensive side of the football. Here's some numbers. Azeez Al-Shire had 10 tackles, 9 solo, 2 for loss. Jalen Petrie with 8 tackles. Henry To'oTo'o and Jimmy Ward each had 5. Tim Settle, big man up front.
2 sacks,
2
right?
sacks.
2 sacks.
2 sacks. And then Kalen Bullock, 3 tackles. Kamari Lassiter, 4 tackles. But Tim Settle, you'll take that. 2 sacks. Will Anderson had a sack. And Tim Settle had the 2 quarterback hits, 2 sacks. Yeah.
How about Stephon Diggs with a 118.8 passer rating today?
Sam Darnold?
No, Stephon Diggs.
That was certainly
They ran the little,
that was also
the little
unexpected
lateral.
as well. That was also unexpected.
Yeah.
But Bobby loves him some gadget plays.
That he does.
Loves him some gadget plays. All right. Let's see if you guys weigh in. Will this be a turning point for this team, or will this be an issue moving forward for this team? What you saw in this game, whether it's the penalties or the porous offensive line, the lack of a running game. I think getting Joe Mixon back will be huge.
It will
because Joe Mixon certainly adds that dimension that they have not had when he has not been in there in week 2 at NRG against the Bears, and certainly today against these Minnesota Vikings.
It will be, but they still have to start on time.
You're right.
I mean,
You're
if
right.
they keep getting backed up into, 2nd and 20, 3rd and 15,
Yeah.
the odds of converting those plays are so small.
AFC South standings at this point: Houston 2 wins, 1 loss in first place. Indianapolis 1 game behind at 1-2. Jacksonville is winless, 0-2. Again, they're playing Monday night. The Jaguars are playing Monday night, and then Tennessee is 0-3. Points allowed, 74 points allowed in 3 games now for the Texans, and they've scored 55. Certainly this game skews things a bit, but again, I think it was Eddie said earlier that now Gilbert says, I mean, we did face a number 1 ranked defensive team. I know one thought we would, okay, I got you. Basically saying that most people thought we'd win all 16 games. We had a few players out. We will bounce back. That's a good point.
Yeah.
This is, right now, certainly Minnesota is one of the surprises of the NFC, but they're not going to be a surprise anymore after the way they took out the Texans. They're not a surprise anymore. They're a legitimate contender at this point in the season.
That's a strong football team.
Yeah.
I mean, they've got what they need. There's no question. And Sam Darnold, I never understood why he didn't have a shot to start, because I understand he struggled early in his career, but I mean,
it's a rookie quarterback. He's competing against a rookie. You don't know what you're getting.
And what about everybody around him?
Yeah.
Like you
they
said,
aren't rookies.
well,
Those guys. No, what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I'm saying this team, Minnesota. You throw a rookie quarterback in there, who knows how it's going to go?
That's right.
Yeah, I think
right.
that's where you're going with that,
yeah,
right?
that and to say that when he earlier in his career, when he was in New York or he was in Carolina, he doesn't have that same supporting cast by any means, and he doesn't have Kevin O'Connell as his head coach, who's proving himself to be one of the, up and coming, if not already there, head coaches in the NFL.
And then on the defensive side of the ball, they have Brian Flores, who, for some of the outside things that have happened in his career, he is definitely one of the top defensive guys in the league. That's why the Houston Texans interviewed him for the open head coaching position at the time. That's why he was one of the guys who was interviewed.
Yeah.
And he is certainly one of the best in the league. And thus far, they have been. They did a good job. Spot on.
Disguising scheme today. They did a good job with that.
Well, you get that pressure. If you get pressure, like, you can do pretty much whatever you want, right?
Yeah, that is true.
Once again, Jason Bristol, Zach Tawatari waiting for CJ Stroud. And as you said, it is about time. It's about time for CJ to make an appearance and tell us what he's thinking after this one. Let's see. I'm looking here, trying to get yards per game. That's not what I'm looking for. But tell us, as Eddie brings up a good point, talk about Minnesota. They beat an elite physical 49er team. We need to compete with the big boys. Many opportunities the Texans can learn from if they want to be elite. Oh, without a doubt.
And there's no question, this game, they would have won it. That's a big statement they would have been able to make.
Texans,
the Texans. But, you can't harp on the loss because it is a 1 week league. It's a 1-0 league, right?
And they're going to say we got to flush it, but yes, there are. I think some things were so glaring though that you can't flush it. Like, you can't. You have
to address it, and you do have to harp on it, for lack of a better term, because they need to get it fixed.
Vikings now have 11 sacks. That is, if these are correct, up to date. Hard for me to. It doesn't say the date, but 11 sacks. The Jets actually lead the NFL in sacks with 14. The Texans are right there with 9. Maybe these are old then.
I think the Vikings.
They have to be old because they had 7 and. Oh. It has to be old.
Yeah.
So.
I think the Vikings play the Jets next. I believe they do.
This is what we call in the business stretching.
Let's see.
This is what we call in the business trying to fill time.
I'm sorry, they play the Packers, and then they play the Jets.
That game is at Green Bay. That's going to be
It
a
is.
really good game.
It is. That'll be a great game.
Now, certainly Green Bay doesn't have Jordan Love. I would imagine he won't be ready to play
Yeah.
because what happened to him is typically about a month injury. But man, that's going to be a really, really good game.
He'll be back just in time to play the Texans on October 20th
All right.
in Green Bay.
That'll also be a good one. Jason Bristol, Zach Tawatari here, KHO 11 News Studios, as we're waiting for CJ Stroud and his post-game news conference following the Texans' 34-7 loss to the Vikings in Minneapolis.
It's interesting after a loss, right? Because sometimes it could be really quick.
Yes.
Like they just want to get it over with.
And I'm surprised that it's actually taking this long because they got to get a flight
They do.
out of here, out of there. Now, having said that, they're not going to leave CJ behind. But typically, because they are on a time schedule, they
Right.
usually they want to get
They're prompt.
they're prompt or
Yeah.
more prompt.
More prompt. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
all right.
Filler
Robert
time.
says it's filler time, eh, boys?
That's right, Robert. That's right.
Eddie says having a run game will pay dividends. We can control the clock, time of possession, less pressure on the defense. Amen, brother.
Exactly.
Amen. And I know DeMeco Ryans and Bobby Slowick feel the exact same way. I know Nick Caserio feels the exact same way. How do we know that? Because of what they did in the offseason by going and getting Joe Mixon.
And how much they spent.
Mm-hmm. Yep, without
Well-
a doubt. Now, Omar, the Texans PR head, is there.
However, he
has a
grabbing
backpack
a
on.
backpack and leaving, which is
What does
not
that mean?
encouraging to me
No,
right
they
now.
would have to bring CJ.
He has to, but I'm just. Robert says CJ might be laying into the team.
Lighting into the team, yeah, lighting
And
into
who can blame him? I don't know.
meh.
I don't know. I don't know if CJ's has that personality. I think he's.
When
I think he's a
warranted.
little more.
When
Yeah,
warranted,
when
yeah.
warranted, but more generally speaking, low key. He could be, but I just, from what I've seen, he's definitely more low key when it comes to constructive criticism. Let's say.
Yeah, but with CJ, all things are possible. All things are possible. We've seen that, and we will see that moving forward. Jacksonville, an interesting group that you're going to run into next week because Trevor Lawrence was supposed to be the it dude. I mean, he was the next big thing, and then you bring in a head coach who was an offensive mind, and things have gone well at times, but they're 0-2, and things have not gone well thus far this season.
No. I think the Texans. Oh, here's CJ.
Okay, so here is CJ Stroud.
What are some of your takeaways from home today?
First and foremost, just want to thank God, just for another opportunity to play this wonderful game in a great environment. Some of my takeaways, just shooting ourselves in the foot a lot. Got to just clean up, play cleaner football, protect the football, and play complementary football. All 11 guys on the same page, and just fixing issues. I feel like is the next steps and goals for us. But those are some of the things that just stick out right now.
CJ, how did what you were expecting them to do pan out versus what actually happened?
I mean, they kind of did exactly what we thought. Played a lot of too high, a lot of taking away our passing game, and then they would either blitz the edge and try to stop the run on a certain down. So, I mean, they did a lot of things that we thought we were doing. We just, weren't moving quick enough. We weren't executing. We weren't playing hard enough. And, it starts with me. So, just got to be better. I mean, it's, something that I feel like it can be fixed. So it's nothing to hang our heads down about, but, definitely can and will be better.
CJ, everybody talked about the pre-snap penalties and how tough they were. What was the main issue there, and how tough is it when you're constantly backing up and you find yourself third and long?
Can't live on 3rd and long, especially against a defense like theirs. They cause a lot of issues on 3rd and long. You have to give yourself a chance, and you keep shooting yourselves in the foot and just moving backwards. You're not playing complimentary football even for yourself. So, I don't know exactly. I can't just tell you right now exactly what the issues are up there. Has to be conversation, away from, the game and just meetings and just seeing what we can do to be better when, it's loud and, how intentional we have to be at practice and things like that, just to get those things fixed. 'Cause, we're moving the ball. It's just, you're kicking yourself out the red zone and kicking opportunities and, and it's hard to live on 3rd and plus 10. So.
CJ, you made a point that later on this year, this game is something you'll look back on and it'll be important in terms of things that you learn and it's better than it's early in the season. What's your perspective on that?
100% agree. I've dealt with games like this before where it's like, man, like we look terrible, we like this, but that's not the truth. They kicked our butts today. They are a great team, and they will continue to be doing great things. But we know what we are, and that's not what we put on the field today. Got a lot of respect for those guys over there, but like Steph said, this is just the beginning. So week 3, it's no time to point the finger or separate. It's only time to come together. That's the most thing that matters. We stay together. We don't care about the outside noise. We know everybody's probably going to turn their back on us. We know our fans are going to stay loyal. So, it is what it is. We know what we're going to be, and we're going to, continue to go through the lumps that everybody goes through during the year at some point, and we're glad it's happening now.
Take a couple more. That first pass of the day, it gets batted and then it gets intercepted. What can you talk about what you saw on that play, what your read was, and how it played out?
It was my second pass. Made the right read. We had a lot of guys open, threw it to Tank. They were playing, a certain technique. If they can't get home, then they just sit there and jump. It's honestly, you got to just try to find a lane or something. You can't sit there and as a quarterback, everything's happening like this. I can't sit there and see him just about to jump. It's just not the truth. So, but I can maybe sidearm and just try to find a window. But I was making the right reads all day. I feel like I played well, other than the turnovers, especially the one at the end. But I was seeing it well, trying to just stay in the pocket and deliver as best as I could. But they had some coverages and some pressures that they did at a very, very high level. So kudos to those guys, and that's kind of just what happened on that play. They made a great play.
Last one.
Smile, realize, we're still very, very talented. We're still a force to be reckoned with, and we're still very dangerous. It's nothing to, I always use this quote about Nipsey Hussle, just never let a hard time humble you, all the way to zero. You learn and you have some humility, but you don't let it take you back to square one or square zero. And we built a foundation solid on rock, so we're not going to act like, everything was perfect out there, but we're not going to act like there wasn't some positives. And once we fix the negatives, we're going to be rolling. So I'm excited, man, because the only way we can go up the only way we can go now is up. So, I'm very grateful and blessed that we did get our tails whooped today, and, something to learn from. And, I'm glad it happened early. Now it's time to go to work. All right, man.
And there you have it. There is CJ Stroud speaking after this one. Your impressions of what CJ had to say?
He knows what he's talking about.
Yeah.
He talks like a veteran. He acts like a veteran. He understands that this is a long season, and this is part of it.
Mm-hmm. We'll give CJ the final word, but if we had to pick one word out of all the words that were given to us, which one would you pick?
Ooh.
It could be your word.
I think I'm going to go with I think I'm going to go with flat still, because I just think they came out not firing on all cylinders.
All right, I'm good with that. We had these as well. I think disgusting is a little strong. I think that's a little strong. This one is a contender for me. That
Actually,
one,
I liked your word.
really?
Stinker. That's what I think this
All right,
was.
we'll go with that one. All right, everybody. That's going to do it. For Zach Tawatari, I'm Jason Bristol. Your final score, Minnesota Vikings 34, Houston Texans 7. Thanks for joining us here in the KHO 11 News Studios.